Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought that I would review this little video that I found very particularly interesting. And this is mainly going to be my fight preview, my fight prediction of the rematch that is going to be happening this weekend between George Kambosos Jr. and Devin Haney. And this is going to be a particularly interesting match because a certain amount of people may wonder how this fight is going to turn out. I'm going to give my opinion and my breakdown of how the fight is going to occur, at least in my mind. I already broke down, the first one. I predicted Devin Haney to win by unanimous decision, and that did end up happening. But this video I thought was particularly interesting. The question now is, will George Kambosos have more of a chance in the rematch against Devin Haney? I believe that he changed trainers, and apparently George Kambosos said that he apparently sees things that he can take advantage of, which you never know. But I'm going to talk about the prediction, at least from my mind. And we're also going to hear Mr. Boxing Ego and some of Andre Ward's points as well. Apparently, Andre Ward had something to say about this rematch. I thought that both of them actually brought up good points for this rematch, even though I often find Mr. Boxing Ego to be a little bit more biased in his commentary. But, of course, Devin Haney is one of the few fighters that he likes, so he's going to be perfectly objective with this one. But anyways, let's just see what they both have to say. I thought it was particularly interesting, and with that, I'm going to give my fight prediction as well. So let's get into it.
Wow, ahead of the Devin Haney rematch, George Kambosos has changed trainers, says Andre Ward, and he looks at Kambosos as a confused fighter. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Andre Ward was on Max Kellerman's show. This is what he said regarding the upcoming Devin Haney rematch in Australia with George Kambosos Jr., former champion, will beat Teofimo. I expect Devin Haney to do the same thing, but do it a little bit better this time. You have to realize that everything that Devin Haney brought into the first fight.
Well, after the criticism of Mr. Canelo Alvarez, what you should be saying, Mr. Boxing Eagle, is that Devin Haney should knock out George Kambosos. Because George Kambosos is no legitimate threat to Mr. Devin Haney, at least not in my view. And I pretty much just gave away my fight prediction. I expect this fight to go exactly the same. Maybe George Kambosos could win one more round than what I gave him last time. Maybe make it a bit more competitive. But I wouldn't be surprised if Devin Haney made it even wider. I think last time I scored this fight 9 rounds to 3, which is pretty much what I predicted. I just said that George Kambosos, in my opinion, that he never, in my view, was truly an A-grade fighter, and he has just a wrong type of style to beat someone like a Devin Haney. If you have that type of style, someone who's going to have a chance against Devin Haney, that counter-punching style that is mainly going to wait on the counters, Teofimo more than likely would have to be the fighter that is going to beat Devin Haney because he actually has the power and the fight IQ and the skill in order to actually possibly have a chance. Now, some people may say, well, Teofimo lost to George Kambosos, so why would you say that Teofimo has a shot? Because Teofimo, in my opinion, I think the reason why he lost to George Kambosos, and Mr. Boxing Eagle will tell you this himself because I've seen him say this in his other videos. I think the reason why Teofimo lost to George Kambosos is because he heavily underestimated him. Not only that, but George Kambosos is very similar in his style to Teofimo. And when you're facing a very similar style, it's very tough because you're almost looking at yourself in the mirror, and some people look at it and say, how do I beat myself? So I think that Teofimo not only underestimated him, but I think all in all that he was not the most prepared for that fight, or at least he did not expect him to have that type of challenge. And I said this about George Kambosos. All George Kambosos is another Jeff Horn, another Buster Douglas, another Andrew Ruiz. Really, he's not even on the Andrew Ruiz level because Andrew Ruiz is actually still one of the top contenders. I don't think that George Kambosos, even though he is a top contender, I don't think he's one of the top 4, top 5 guys within that weight division. I don't think he's Devin Haney. I don't think he's Vasily Lomachenko. I don't think he's Gervonta Tank Davis. And there's maybe even a couple of other fighters. I'm not even sure if he would beat them. But anyway.
Went across the world to deal with the time zone, deal with the ruckus fans. The ruckus fans, Australian fans, are great fans because he didn't know if his father was going to be there, who is his chief trainer. In the 11th hour, his dad was able to get.
Well, listen, I give Devin Haney credit for all that, but please, I mean, do we give Tyson Fury that much more credit because he came to the USA and overcame the corruption where they tried to screw him in that first fight? And overall, he was able to knock out Deontay Wilder in America those 2 times. Do you give any extra credit to certain fighters? All in all, that you don't tend to like? No, so come on. I mean, I understand what you're trying to say here, but George Kambosos, when it comes down to it, He's not the fighter what a Devin Haney is. So he did what he was supposed to do. And that's not me trying to downplay Devin Haney's win. But I think Mr. Ego is trying to give even extra credit to Devin Haney, which I understand, because I understand the point that he's coming from. But once again, if you don't give credit to other fighters for doing similar things or similar situations, then I don't know if you should give really extra credit to that of Devin Haney. Because George Kambosos, in my opinion, is not like all in all he was a Costi Azul or something, or an Australian fighter that was a super huge threat. He was a fighter that got the titles, in my opinion, because Teofimo, who was the greater talent, really did not take him seriously. Once again, that's not me trying to downplay Devin Haney's win. He's a great fighter. But George Kambosos, in my opinion, he was never going to be a threat to any real A-grade level fighter that actually took him seriously.
There a lot of emotional pressure and stress that a fighter has to deal with on top of it being the biggest fight of your life on the road overseas. And Devin handled that and took care of his business. If Kambosos was going to get Devin Haney, I think it was going to be that night. I'm not sure Kambosos can do much more, Max, said Andre Ward. He continues, he'll try harder, but what can he do to be smarter? I don't think he has that.
I agree with Andre Ward 100% there. I don't see George Kambosos really doing much different. I think I see George Kambosos trying to mix it up a bit more and maybe being slightly more aggressive, but I just don't think there's almost anything that he beats Devin Haney in. He doesn't beat him in size. He doesn't beat him in reach. He doesn't beat him in speed. He doesn't have the better jab. He certainly doesn't overall have better movement, in my opinion. There's just almost nothing that he beats Devin Haney in. George Kambosos, once again, he's a lot like the Kelly Pavlik or the Jeff Horn. He's a fighter that ended up beating the main talent of the division because that guy either had some holes in his game that specific style could expose, or B, that fighter did not take him too seriously. So he ended up winning the titles there. But as soon as he faces any other contender, he's not going to win that fight.
In him, Kambosos, he changed trainers. He's making a lot of excuses. And when I listen to Kambosos talk, I see a confused man who's searching for answers. And
I agree. I 100% agree with Mr. Andre Ward. I think that is exactly what George Kambosos is. I think that he's a man that is claiming that he can see different things, and he's trying to talk himself into believing that he can beat Devin Haney, which is what you're supposed to do, but I don't think that deep down he truly believes it. This George Kambosos reminds me of Deontay Wilder heading into the Tyson Fury trilogy. It reminds me of Ricky Hatton heading into the Manny Pacquiao fight. It reminds me of a certain amount of other fighters that truly knew deep down that they were not going to win this fight.
Haney, I believe, is going to be the same guy. He's just going to go be a lot better the second time around. Beautiful.
I don't know if I'll say a lot better. I think that Devin Haney, that there's only so much he can do against high grade B or A level fighters, because Devin Haney is very decently talented. He's a decent technician, although he does have a couple of flaws, in my opinion, which of course every fighter has. But in my opinion, the main flaw with him is that his defense needs to tighten up a little bit. But Devin Haney, when it comes down to it, once again, he's just better than Kambosos in every category. But the problem also with Devin is that he doesn't really seem to have a great power. It's not bad power, but I don't know if he'll knock out George Kambosos per se. I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm assuming another unanimous decision. Whether it be 9 rounds to 3 or 8 rounds to 4, I think the fight's going to end up pretty much exactly the same.
Stated by Andre Ward, I really agree with him as well.
At the game room, we get plenty of unique experiences.
What can I do for you?
Well, and I was thinking about this fight, and I know Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder from Tuscaloosa. Oh my God, I know he's coming back this weekend as well.
That's right, your boyfriend.
Along with Clarissa Shields, the rescheduled in light of the Queen's passing, Queen Elizabeth II. Her card with Michaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner. And the main event is Clarissa Shields, the GOAT, versus Savannah Marshall. And I was thinking about this. All these fights on the weekend, I haven't really heard as much about the Devin Haney fight. And I think it's a lot to do with George Kambosos. He really gave you no reason to have faith that the second fight needs to even happen. So
I would agree. And really, I don't think that this rematch needs to take place, but George Kambosos had the rematch clause, so it is what it is. Devin Haney will have to do it. Do I think that it's going to end up any different? No, not at all. Do I think that George Kambosos is gonna try to make adjustments. I think he'll try to make some adjustments, but I just don't think that he's that gifted athletically. I don't think that he's as technical as what he thinks that he is. And I think all in all that he knows more than likely that Devin Haney's going to win this fight.
I don't disagree with anything that Andre Ward said. I think
I don't disagree with anything that Andre Ward said either. In fact, I agree with pretty much everything that he said. I think that George Kambosos is confused, and I think that he's pretending that he has answers, but I think he's just going to try to go in there and do some things, see if they work. He's going to probably try to go balls to the wall, or at least the best way that he can. Do I think it's going to work? No.
Haney will look better and sharper because his dad wasn't there until the last minute. Other members of his team, like his cut man, wasn't there because they couldn't get him through.
That's the only thing I'll say about Devin Haney. I think that, that's the only thing I'll say about Andre Ward's assertion. I certainly do understand the assertion that Devin Haney will look better. I think he's going to look about the same in this fight. I think he's going to look about the same. I don't think that there's going to be a knockout. Wouldn't be surprised if there was one, but I don't assume that there's going to be a knockout. I predict Devin Haney to win anywhere from, once again, probably 8 to 11 rounds. I'll give George Kambosos a few rounds, pretty much just like the last time, about 3. But I don't think he's going to win any more than 3 or 4.
And, there's just a lot of gamesmanship. He couldn't get Ben Davison there for other reasons, things like that. And this was the fight to define if Devin Haney's the Gmail champion. That's all out the window now. So any kind of jitters or nerves, he will have probably overcome because now he's an official undisputed champion. So I really don't see what Kambosos is going to do. Also,
I don't either because I don't think that he has it within him. I don't think that Kambosos is the type of fighter to beat someone like a Devin Haney. He doesn't have the defense. He doesn't really have the type of power. He doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the boxing intellect. He really doesn't have anything over Devin Haney. Besides maybe punching power. That's about it.
Haney has an edge because Devin Haney was sparring with Albert Bell, who worked with Kambosos the first camp. He was in Kambosos' camp to prepare for Devin Haney, and then in the second, when Devin Haney's undisputed, Albert Bell and Devin Haney worked together. So, a bit of skullduggery and mental warfare, because who knows what type of relationship Devin has with Albert, and they could have swapped war stories or like, oh, Kambosos is weak here, or these are his strengths and weaknesses. So he could have got game and intel. And, the circumstances are all pretty much the same. Devin already fought him in Australia, so if anything, you'll be a little bit more lax and comfortable knowing you can beat him in Australia. So
I would agree, and all the pressure is pretty much on George Kambosos because it's going to be within his home country. I don't see how George Kambosos beats Devin Haney here. I give him about, and I know a lot of people are going to see this as very low, I give him about a 1% chance of defeating Devin Haney. That's how low of a chance I give him. I've never seen it in the first place. I never thought George Kambosos was an A-grade fighter. I think that he got a good win over Teofimo, a fighter that did not take him seriously and also had a very big problem with that type of style. I thought it was a very bad style for Teofimo to fight with George Kambosos because they're so similar. And on top of that, Teofimo didn't seem to take him seriously. I think George Kambosos, once again, he's pretty much just another Kelly Pavlik or Buster Douglas. That's all he is.
Agree with Andre Ward. I look for Devin Haney to just probably look a little bit sharper. And here's the other thing. I think Kambosos in the first fight didn't sell out. So now if he tries to I don't want to embarrass myself and he tries to sell out, he might get tagged more by creating more openings. Because it's hard, especially when you're trying to be smart and you're using and working behind the jab, such as what Devin Haney did. You don't want to reach and force the issue, especially in the first big overseas type of undisputed fight. Is not really worth it. So the more aggressive Kambosos gets, it could actually be worse for him because that could create more openings for Devin Haney, who's now living like a champion. So I'll definitely watch the.
Well, Devin, in my opinion, sometimes does have a problem if you're able to put the pressure on him and actually able to hit him with some shots. Devin Haney does not have an A-grade defense. And we've seen that against Jojo Diaz and some of the other fighters. But you know why Jojo Diaz had more success? Because Jojo Diaz realized that he wasn't going to outbox Devin Haney. He had to go forward, and he had to make him uncomfortable. Now, Jojo Diaz, of course, still clearly lost the fight, but I gave him a good solid 4 rounds against Devin Haney. George Kambosos just has the complete wrong style to beat Devin Haney. You're not going to beat fighters like a Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson by just trying to outbox them in the middle of the ring. That's not going to happen. Those fighters are lengthier than you, they're quicker than you, and they're both very decent technicians. Now, I think that Shakur Stevenson is the all-around better fighter than Devin Haney, but Devin Haney still overall knows enough to still handle himself very decently well in the ring. So, unless maybe you're someone like a Gervonta Tank Davis or a Vasily Lomachenko, you're really not even going to have a chance to outbox him in the middle of the ring, especially if you're smaller than him. Because George Kambosos doesn't have that type of defense, and he's not a combination puncher. He's a counter puncher. And, he can be a very decent counter puncher, but I just don't think that that's the way to beat Devin Haney. You're going to have to put the pressure on him.
Fight, but
to save the future, we have to repair the past.
I don't really see Kambosos doing anything different. I think, he kind of had his moment. It was like a flash in the pan, and he just didn't give me enough in the first fight to make me believe that he can overcome Devin Haney's skill set, ring IQ, the exercising of a consistent jab. And Devin Haney, I don't even know what gear he had to get to do that. Like, it looked like he was in first gear. It didn't look like Devin Haney had to go through all of his... Like, if you fight Tank Davis, you might have to go through plan A, B, C to try to beat him. Devin Haney, he stuck to the script, and it seemed like what he did from the beginning of the fight worked in the middle of the fight, worked at the end of the fight. That's just my 2 cents. Let me know if you agree with Andre Ward and Boxing Ego, because we're pretty much on the same page. Scan the QR code to subscribe to the channel. I am the best in the business, and I'm...
Anyways, that's pretty much about it for this video. But I pretty much agree with what both Andre Ward and Mr. Ego had to say here. I don't see how George Kambosos beats Devin Haney. And more than likely, this fight is probably not going to get the greatest amount of views because this fight is not looked at as the most entertaining. Once again, I give George Kambosos about a 1% chance over Devin Haney. It just is what it is. It's not that he's not a good fighter. He's just not a great fighter. Just is what it is. Once again, he's another fighter that is another Jeff Horn. He's another guy that, ended up winning against a fighter that was a great talent. But all in all, that fighter did not take him too seriously. We've seen this several times in the boxing scene. That's all George Kambosos is. He's nothing more. In my opinion, it just is what it is. No offense to him. He is a talented fighter, but he's nothing more higher than a B+ to A- fighter. I don't even think I can give him the grade of A-. He was able to defeat Teofimo Lopez, but if you put him in the ring against Lomachenko or Stevenson or Haney or, Davis or Ryan Garcia, he doesn't beat any of those fighters. Just is what it is. But anyways, that's really about it. I have Mr. Devin Haney by unanimous decision. Anywhere, I have him winning anywhere from 8 to 11 rounds. I'm going to predict, once again, that he wins 9 rounds to 3. But I wouldn't be shocked. Well, if he was able to make it a little bit more concise than last time or clear, it'll be a little bit interesting. But anyways, that's really about it for this fight prediction. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see what happens this Saturday.